afternoon. We'll wait for a few people to come into the space. I'm Kristian Roberts. I'm waiting for my fabulous friend and co-host, Quo Johnson. It is good to be here. Welcome, welcome. Oh, hey, it's Renee Barbera. Renee, I just want you to know you've been singing, okay? I've been enjoying listening to rehearsals. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. While we're here, let's do a little bit of a check-in while we wait for my fabulous friend and co-host to get here. Tell me where you're from, where you call home, where you're currently located. I know plenty of you are out and singing and moving and directing now that we are back on our traditional stages in full swing. So please check in. Let us know how you all are doing. How are things going where you are? You know, how are your families? All of those things. We want to check in. We want to connect with you. We realize that we are in challenging times in more ways than the other, but it's fantastic to be performing on our traditional stages again, and also continuing to do work on our digital stages as well. So check in with us. Let us know how you're doing. Like I said, where you're from, where you call home. We'd love to know. I personally am from a little town about 2.5 hours south of where I'm currently located, called McGregor, Texas, but I work and live in the DFW area, particularly Dallas. So, and my fabulous friend and co-host is here to join us. So let me go ahead and let her in. Let's see here. Come on, Insta, with all of your... All right. There she is. I think I saw Joseph on here. Shout out to Joseph. They're in the middle of a very good run of our production of Elixir right now. So fantastic to see you on, man.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Quo. What's up?
I saw you just give a shout out to Renee. Renee, you're singing. You singing. You sing.
I mean, can you back off just a little bit? Because between you and
Don't
Morris, we're gonna have to build a new opera house. I mean,
don't
we'll sing the
sing.
paint off the walls.
I was able to attend part of the performance last night, and yeah.
No, it's fire. They're doing really well. So I'm actually glad I got to stick around for some of the rehearsal process. Haven't yet seen the performance because I've had some other things going on health wise. But yeah, what I heard, I was.
No, listen. There are always moments, and I know we're going to get to the show, but as we do
Yeah.
this work, there's so much that has to be done just to get to this part of the work, to get to
Mhm.
this part of opera. And it's always so fulfilling to be in a space and to hear people sing. Same for Morris, same for Joyce, to hear people sing and to be like, yeah, that's opera. Like,
Yeah.
this is it. This is what the human voice is doing with this orchestra in this space that's telling this story. This is opera. This is why
Yeah.
we do this. So gratitude, Renee. Yeah, I was like, woohoo! It was good. It was
Just
good.
fire. I mean, the season has been like that. It's just been really, really electric. So we don't ever want to, with the kind of work that we're doing and the type of topics that we discuss on this show, it might not seem that we get it sometime, but we do. We are musicians. We are singers. Quo is a pianist. We are artists. We understand. We went through the rigorous training as well. So we very much appreciate it and have a unique perspective being administrators and having been on both sides of the stage. So we get it. Yeah, just dropping that flying over. Just wanted to love on the art form, for a little bit in all its iterations, and you know, uh, you got to do it. My name is Kristian Roberts, of course. I'm here with my fabulous friend and co-host,
Quodicia Johnson.
and we are back with another episode of Taking the Stage with Kristian
And Quo. And of course, as we begin every episode, we always start with a land and people acknowledgement because it is important in the work that we do. It is important in how we connect to others. It is important how we make sure we tell the full story and the full narrative of who we are and how we got to where we are. So I do want to take the time to acknowledge that we in Dallas, we are on stolen land. We are on the land of the Caddo, the Wichita, and the Comanche sovereign nations. Nations of amazing, beautiful, wonderful human beings who live the full human experience. Nations of individuals who loved, who fought, who lost, and cultivated the land since time immemorial. Nations of human beings who also faced horrible conditions, including genocide and policy that forced them from their land. Again, we share this not because it is anyone's fault right now, right? No one created these conditions, but it is true in how we came to be on this land. It is true how the Dallas Opera came to exist where it is. I also want to take the time to acknowledge that people were stolen from their homes off the coast of Africa and brought here and forced into enslaved labor. And from that enslaved, free, and forced labor, we have what we now enjoy as Dallas, Texas. Again, I do this not to cast blame, but to speak truth, as my last name is Johnson, not because my ancestors' names are Johnson, same for Miss Roberts here, but because we are a descendant of those enslaved people. Because that is a part of our identity, that is a part of the stories that we carry with us and a part of our experience and how we live our lives. Same for those around us. So again, I do this not to cast blame, but to acknowledge truth because there's power in truth, but then to also acknowledge that we have the honor, we have the obligation, and we have the ability to heal the harm and to work together to create greater connections going forward. So as always, I thank you for joining us for this land and people acknowledgement.
And of course, we thank you for joining us. It is always so wonderful to be with you all and for you to continue to stay with us. You know, we've been at this since we're coming up on like our 2-year anniversary at this point for taking the stage. And we've tackled a lot of things during the pandemic and topics that have challenged people, have made people uncomfortable. But it's necessary conversations, it's necessary change that needs to happen. And it's going to take the effort of all of us, not just a certain group of us, to begin doing this work and an understanding between the groups of us to begin to make change and continue to strive to make change. And I say that because our topic today that we're going to talk about a little bit, first of all, shout out to the Dallas Opera staff before I even go there. We've had a very rigorous season. We see you, we thank you. We've been working along there beside you, our crew, admin, costume shop, everybody. Kudos to y'all. Mm-hmm. We're getting there. We're wrapping up and we'll take a rest. But so just thank you all for that. Thank you all for the continued support. Shout out to our boy, David Lamelli.
Hey, David.
Okay. Ever since he came to us with this crazy idea, we've been in y'all's face ever since. So thank you so much to him. Dude, I hope you're feeling better. We've been thinking about you. So let's dive in today. We're going to talk about something today that, well, it's deep. It is deep, but it's not so deep that we're not able to talk about it. It's not so deep that it is hard to comprehend. I say that because sometimes I think we make more out of things that need to be made more out of. That probably didn't make a lick of sense. Sorry, I've done this a month, so I'm just going to be out there and be human. Like, it is what it is. I'm going to fumble, I'm going to make mistakes, and that's fine. But Quo and I have been talking lately about the roles we have within our organizations, the duties that we have within those roles in our organizations, the expectations around those roles, internally and externally, within the operatic community, within our community, global, local, community, right, in our communities, and what those expectations look like. And she titled today's episode, Disrupting Bootstrap Theory. Mm-hmm. Now, Quo, let's talk about what Bootstrap Theory is, first of all.
So Bootstrap Theory is the idea that the harder you work, the more you get and the more you gain in life, which to an extent is true. However, in a society that is built on systematic oppression, one can work very, very hard their entire life and still not obtain the resources that they need because
basic. The
The basic
basic resources that
resources
they
that
need.
right. We have many individuals, many community members working 80 plus hours a week and still not getting everything they need. So it's the idea that if you work harder, you can get further along in life, which is not always true. Bootstrap theory is also the idea that you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, that you buckle down and you make it happen by yourself. You just got to keep going and keep doing what you need to do until you get there, because that's what's going to happen. And we are actively disrupting that idea as absolute. And we are actively questioning that idea because we continuously see the evidence of contrary. We continuously see that there are people working extremely hard. We continuously see that there are administrators working really hard, that there are people within our communities working really hard, still not receiving the promotions they deserve, still not receiving the resources they deserve, that they need, and then still not being able to access spaces within opera that should be open to everyone. Now, to be clear, this is not to say that if you do not work hard as an artist, if you do not work hard on your craft as an artist, that you should still be able to move forward. That's a completely different thing. We're not talking about technique. We are not talking about your ability to get on stage and to tell stories. We are talking about the expectation that if you can't even access the audition, then it must be your fault because you must not have worked hard enough. When we know that there
when
are
you can't get the plane ticket to get to the audition, the suit, the dress, the application fee.
Right.
To get to the audition.
The same goes for our staff members and our administrators. The idea that, you must not have worked hard enough to get that promotion when we have people who are often carrying entire departments for years before they actually are acknowledged and receive the things that they should be getting and the opportunities and resources that they should be getting. So today we're going to break down Bootstrap Theory. Again, this is not an either or approach. We're going to break down Bootstrap Theory and then look for some ways to kind of liberate our mentality toward what it means to work hard and what it means when we associate our worth with human beings with our work, which comes from a society built on enslaved labor. You're only as valuable
and stolen land.
On stolen land. You're only as valuable to me as long as I can work you to death. And the moment you're no longer valuable as a worker, you can go away and I'll go steal somebody else to come do it, right? But we got to be real about this. Is how our nation came to be. So when we look up and we feel bad because it seems like our work isn't doing anything, or we feel bad because it seems like we're constantly going and going and going, but we don't seem to get anywhere. When we feel bad or we feel less than because our work is not achieving the goals that were set on them, we want to be mindful of when that's bootstrap theory. We want to be mindful of when that's the idea that, I need to work hard and I need to pull my bootstraps up and I'm going to get in there. You ain't got no boots.
You don't have socks. You don't have socks, okay, for your feet to put in the boots. What boots? You have to understand that some people already started behind, and it's systemic, okay? And there are some people, and again, we're not saying that you should not work hard. Absolutely you should.
Work
okay?
hard.
If you say, we know this in opera, but that individualistic idea, if we had those individualistic ideas every time we went to put a work on stage, an opera on stage, nothing would ever get done. We know full well we cannot do that by ourselves. It is a team effort when we put on opera. So if anybody should understand this concept, it should be people who work on an art form that needs all kinds to do all kinds of things, all kinds of skill sets, all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of diversity of thought to be able to do that. We should know that better than anyone. Okay.
Yes.
But sometimes that gets lost. It doesn't translate over when we get to talking about equity and access and belonging.
Right.
Okay.
Right. There's this assumption that you should just know and you should just be able to do, or you should just be able to identify what resources you need, coming from an environment where you're so used to just making it work because people refuse to give you those resources. So suddenly you're supposed to just have that knowledge. And then you are supposed to bring the knowledge of what you need as well as the solution and how to get what you need. Because Bootstrap, you should be able to
Yes.
work hard enough to find all the answers for us. You're the one with the problem. Find all the answers for us. So as we look at Bootstrap Theory and as we disrupt the idea that you and your worth as a human being is directly tied to your work, we also want to be mindful that a lot of organizations are dealing with equity work right now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of organizations are dealing with equity work. And again, I say right now, there have been many artists, there have been many administrators who have been carrying the torch for a long time, right? We've been carrying the torch and doing the work for a long time. Bootstrap Theory expects that one person's hard work is going to change everything.
The whole organization.
Because you're working hard. Of course, if you're working hard, why wouldn't you see the results? Right? As if hard work alone is enough. So I want to give a reminder to all of my people out there. I see Cynthia, she joined us. Hey, Cynthia. To all of my people out there who are doing this work as a fellow equity specialist, what the organization does and does not do is not a direct reflection of you, your ability to create change, your worth, or your work. You alone or you within a group of people, even we have a cohort right at Dallas Opera, you alone or with a group of people cannot shift an entire system until that system has been shaken enough so that some things can loosen, so that some things can move. So if you're constantly running up against barriers, do not take that as immediately as you're inadequate or you are not doing enough. You are going up against centuries of things that have been built into place. So as we disrupt Bootstrap Theory, we also want to disrupt the idea that so-and-so at this organization must be handling everything and that organization has it all together, because that's not how it works. Right? Things have to be done through an ecosystem in order for things to change. That individual, I'm gonna pull my bootstraps up and I'm just gonna work harder. Yes, work hard. Notice when you're working hard up against something that is so large that it takes an entire community to move, because that's what we're doing, right? That's my note to equity specialists and to staff members and to artists who have been doing this work. That does not
And I would also toss in, and I'm going to drop this line over because a lot of times education and community engagement are on the front lines of this. And many times we are under resourced. We don't have what we need to adequately go into the community and do this work. And when you are doing equity work and belonging work within your organization and trying to turn what you are reflecting on the outside to look like what's going on inside and vice versa, that's when these two worlds come together. That's why I'm very adamant that particularly education and community engagement folks, a lot of times we get tied into this work. A lot of times we're working alongside the equity specialist. But before even the equity specialist even got there, we were trying to do this kind of work. So please do not, and I would say this for any work. I don't care what field you're in. Let me just say a shout out to the world. Your work is not your worth. And I know that in this society, that has been pounded into everybody. Oh, you're not doing this. The first thing that we do when we introduce ourselves to people, we don't tell them who we are. We tell them what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So that will tell you how many times have you been to something and they go, well, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Instead of, well, who are you? Where are you from? It's the reason why when you all came into the room, I said, where do you call home? Where are you from? Where are you located right now? How's your family? Let's check in. It's us just doing little bitty things like that that are going to chip away at your work being related to your worth. And I know, particularly in a capitalistic society, when you are the product, or what they treat you as the product, or what you can do as the product. That's very, very difficult. But the whole point of this is centering humanity, right? And individually, we are not built to be by ourselves. To work by ourselves.
And as we speak specifically again to the culture and society here in the United States, I know there are many other cultures where you're referenced to and you're called by whatever your position is. Wonderful. That is not a diss to any of the cultures that
not at all.
It is a matter of The nuance here for the United States, when we pay solely attention to people's jobs, knowing that not everybody got their job because of hard work, right? Not everybody got their job.
Meritocracy.
Meritocracy is a myth, right?
Mm,
Not everybody got their job fairly because they were just the best person in the space. A lot of times it's impacted by racism, it's impacted by sexism, it's impacted by homophobia, it's impacted by ageism, ableism. All of these things are into play in the system. So when we say we're disrupting bootstrap theory, we are disrupting the idea that you will get where you need to go if you just work harder without demanding that everybody else in the space consider how the system has set things up for you to constantly work without being able to achieve your goals. It really, really has in so many ways. Again, this is not a call to say, do not study your craft. This is not a call to say, do not get in the practice room. This is not a call to say, do not learn what is happening within your field and within your industry, especially for arts administrators, right?
correct.
Artists, we have to keep going, because if we don't, it's evident. Arts administrators, we can kind of get away with faking some stuff for a while until we get called out on it. So this is not a call to say don't work hard. This is a call to say do not associate what is happening with your organization and around your organization with your worth, directly with your worth. Do not associate your work directly with your work. Do associate your passion for the work, right, directly with your worth, because that is what is going to change this. This is a matter of consistency. This is a matter of community. This is a matter of us looking up and calling out when we are being forced to work harder with the assumption that we're going to receive, even though we've not received anything prior, right? This is us calling out and saying, yes, me and my team did all of that and we worked extremely hard, and recognizing when somebody says, good job, I need you to do more. No, you need to give me.
Yes, you need to provide the resources.
Including rest, right?
And human resources, yes.
And human resources. As we look at the many different things going on in the field right now, sometimes the prioritization to see the evidence of results over evidence of the work starts to create an issue. Mm-hmm. Again, people want to see results. They don't want to see the work that needs to be done to get to the results.
Or do the work, because it gets hard. It gets uncomfortable. Okay, it gets a little warm in there.
It's a little warm. So I want to make sure for those of us, one, who are working, we're all working hard. Some of us have to work harder because Bootstrap Theory said that we are not working hard enough. Bootstrap Theory, which is a myth, said that we need to keep doing more. So for those of us who are having to work harder to meet into this idea of Bootstrap Theory, that this is the American dream and you can do all these things, this dream built on stolen land and stolen labor. Yeah. Those of us
It's a dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Those of us who are finding ourselves continuously associating the progress of the organization directly with our work and the idea that we have to keep working harder by ourselves, I want you to disrupt that, right? I encourage you to take the time to truly consider what is yours to carry and what is yours to put down, what is yours to hand to someone else, because they should actually be carrying it because they got where they got without actually having to do the same amount of work. Those of us who are realizing that you've gotten where you've gotten because the system has benefited you momentarily, even though it disrupts and it harms everyone. Those who are realizing this start to also consider, how are you associating your worth with your work? And understanding that you've done different work, and in understanding that others have done more work that is more difficult in different ways, right? As we come into truth and into realizing this, we have to disrupt Bootstrap Theory so that we're not continuously pulling from our artists, from our staff, from our community with the idea that we just have to keep going because that's what's going to get us where we want to go. No, we have to keep going together and be honest about the work that's already been done, the work that is being done, and the work that needs to be done, so that we can continue moving in the right direction. That's my soapbox.
No, and you stood on it. You stood on that rock. So I don't really have anything else to add to that other than, you know, we have to be careful not to fall in the trap. I say this all the time. Lay aside the weight of unrealistic expectations. Okay, nobody is where they are because they did it by themselves. It may have felt like that, but somewhere along the way, a teacher said something to you, a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, somebody that it helped you do something. And we have to remember that we are built to move in community with each other, even though the lie of individualism and the lie of meritocracy has clouded that. And yes, I call them exact lies. Okay, because that's exactly what they are. Myth, lie. Didn't happen. So that's all I'm saying. And so I would invite you today, and that's everybody, artists, equity specialists, administrators, consultants, whoever you are, lay aside the weight of those unrealistic and false expectations. And I would say to leaders, you have to be examples of this, and you have to be willing to take this on. Okay, and demonstrate this towards your staff. And I say that as somebody who is the leader of a department. It is not easy. Okay, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying that it's not going to be uncomfortable. But if we're going to disrupt this and keep moving toward the change that we need and actually making the change that we need, we have to reset our minds around this. And folks who are on the outside looking in, when you look at these organizations who have hired an equity specialist or a DEI specialist or someone, please do not associate a huge organizational shift and change and put all of the onus on that one individual person to get it done. It has to be a collective effort, okay? Starting with your board and your executive offices. We know this, okay? And I'm saying this boldly because I'm seeing it happen in real time in my own face, thanks to my friend here, okay? And it's not easy. And when you are at an organization that is trying to do work and trying to do it right, it's going to feel slow, it's going to feel tedious, it's going to feel meticulous, but you have to remember that we are trying to disrupt 400 or 500 years of nonsense, okay? And we're trying to build towards something we have never seen before, but we know we need to do it, okay? Particularly if we want to continue to not just survive as an art form, but thrive as an art form and as a society, period. That's my soapbox. Quo, I'll turn it over to you for positive notes.
And you stood on it. Of course, as always, we thank y'all for joining us for these conversations. If you have any thoughts, any questions, of course, feel free to drop them in the chat, to DM us, to send us messages. This is how the work gets done, and the truth telling necessary for us to get to a space of transformation is healing in itself. Shout out to Dr. D.L.
Yes, it is. Amen.
I want to remind everybody, and I posted it as well in my learnings and my understanding, that healing work is often painful before it is liberating. That does not mean it should not be done, and that does not mean that we should run away from it, even though we'll naturally want to move into a space of comfort. As we start to disrupt and start to question and get curious about why we do the things that we are doing, it also opens up the door for us to use our fully wonderful, amazing, creative selves to find better ways to do things. We started this episode by fangirling over Renee.
Because, hey, I told I had to say something.
I know, and again, because that's an experience that this is opera. This is when we remove all the other stuff and all of the other things that have been added on to make things unnecessarily difficult, to keep the comfort of a very small group. When we get to the point where we are telling stories with a human voice and a combination of all of this art, that is opera, right?
Yes.
And it moves everybody in the space unapologetically.
Well, and if you don't believe us, I want to drop this line over, Quo. It's been hard in Texas with the pandemic. I know it's been hard for a lot of people, but we've had our own special set of circumstances, as many of our fellow states have had, you know, and I'll leave it at that. But you know, this week alone, you know, we've had student matinee performances of a reduced version of the Elixir of Love on the stage at the Winsphere. And we did not know if we were going to be able to go forward with these. You know, even a month ago, we were not sure. And we were finally able to, the energy, I mean, and we knew it. We did it before the pandemic. We've always done this. But the energy of 1,600 kids watching this show and shouting and screaming, the energy is so electric. And I want to point that out, that we're here for a reason. We do this for a reason, right? And that kid, those kids in that audience, it was every walk of life, every race, color, creed, male, female, I'm sure non-binary. I didn't ask the kids because that's their business and not mine. But my point is, everybody was there, and it was electric. It was electric, and we're going to do it again tomorrow with the same amount of students coming. Almost a full house at the Winsphere. And I bring that up because that is what we are striving to do. That is the experience we want people to have when they come into our spaces, okay? And that is what I would remind administrators who are tired right now, artists who have been gigging nonstop since we were able to come out of this thing. You get tired, right? And then the pandemic, you get it takes it away from you, and you're like, ugh! And then when you get it back, you go hard again, and you go after it passionately again, and then you start getting tired again. But when you see kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old, 11 years old, that are so thrilled by what they're seeing on stage and experiencing in this space, there is nothing like it. It is absolutely electric. And so I will remind you all that that's why we're here to do this, that experience that, and again, like Paul said, we fangirl. Okay, but earlier, but because of that, but because of those experiences, she was in the house last night. I heard some of the rehearsals. So I want y'all to understand, we bring it back around because the art form suffers if we don't start to move in these directions and start telling stories that are relevant to communities, by the communities who are impacted by them. Okay, and who have experienced them. So I'm gonna step back off my soapbox and let you go back into positive notes. I'm sorry. Let me sit back.
Yeah. Positive notes. Positive notes. And it is difficult work, but things do not have to be impossible, and they do not have to feel impossible. It is difficult work to get to the roots of what we are doing and to move the rest of it that has been built over it to make it seem so unapproachable, right? To make it seem so separate, right? In so many ways. We're fighting that elitism. We're fighting all of these other things that seem so, and that are unwelcoming to so many people. But at the root of this is the unapologetic space and ability to move people.
Yep.
That's what it is. Which means that we have to be mindful of the theories, of the assumptions, of the lies that we have been taught. And again, we've inherited those things, just like the stolen land, just like stolen labor. But we have the opportunity to build and create something much more beautiful when we tell the truth, when we acknowledge what has happened, when we acknowledge our own ability and capacity to move forward, and when we actively engage in creating something new together. So those are my positive notes. Disrupt the bootstrap theory. You and your worth are not defined by your work at your organization. Define it by your passion and your commitment to making something greater, right? Not by the work that is placed upon you that is also restricted because of all the other things going on, right? You're not less than because you were not able to achieve these things in a system that says you should not achieve them, right? But you are more than worthy. You are more than worth it because you're in the space and because you have the opportunity to create something better. So those are my positive notes, everyone.
And I would just add again, be bold, be brave, lay aside the weight, okay, of those expectations that are not realistic, all right? And folks, please take time to enjoy the celebratory moments as well. I want to emphasize that right now, particularly in this time. And with that, we will wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We very much appreciate each and every one of you. Please continue to spread the love of the art form and the necessary change in order to keep this art form at its highest level, but also at its most human level as well. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks, Lord willing. And yeah, we love you all. Thank you so much. Peace out.
Hi, everyone.